Laura Knight's Cassiopeian experiments, often associated with the Cassiopeia material, involves the exploration of consciousness, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Through various methodologies, including channeling and psychic experiments, Knight and her collaborators sought to communicate with higher intelligences, particularly a group of entities referred to as the Cassiopeians. The primary aim was to gain insight into the metaphysical questions, the nature of existence, and human development. The experiments included multi-session discussions that covered topics like multidimensional realities, free will, and the influence of higher dimensional beings on humanity. Knight recorded these sessions, which often contained profound philosophical and esoteric insights, and these records became part of a larger body of work that aimed to explore consciousness beyond conventional scientific understanding. The overall tone of the experiments reflect a blend of skepticism and deep inquiry into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. Laura Knight began her communication with the Cassiopeians in 1994. She is still in communication with the Cassiopeians to this day. If you would like a better understanding of the Cassiopeians and their impact on humanity, I would highly suggest checking out the Wave series by Laura Knight, the Cassiopeian Forum, which a link will be provided in the description box below, or purchasing the book that I personally am reading from that contains all of the transcripts and conversations between Laura and the Cassiopeians. The Cassiopeians base the soul's evolution and consciousness on the spiritual template known as the Law of One. The Law of One is also known as the raw material. It is a series of philosophical texts that emerged from a series of channeling sessions conducted by Carla Rucker, Don Elkins, and Jim McCarthy in the early 1980s. The sessions involved channeling a consciousness known as Ra, who claimed to be a collective of extraterrestrial beings from the sixth density. The key concepts in the Law of One are unity and oneness. The central tenet of the Law of One is that all beings are fundamentally interconnected and are expressions of the same universal consciousness. The phrase, "we are all one," encapsulates this idea, emphasizing that unity is the essence of existence. It also covers the densities of existence. The material describes the cosmos as composed of multiple densities or levels of existence. Each density represents a stage of spiritual evolution, with humans currently experiencing a third density, which is characterized by lessons in love, understanding, and most importantly, making choices. We also seek to understand in the Law of One soul evolution. According to Ra, souls undergo a process of evolution through these densities, learning and growing through various incarnations. The choice between these paths influences one's spiritual evolution and the experiences one encounters in life. There's also discussions of the role of free will. Free will is considered sacred, and individuals are encouraged to explore and make choices regarding their spiritual development without interference from higher beings. If you would like more information on the Law of One, please make sure to check out the material for yourself. A link to all resources will be posted down in the description box below. But for now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. I'm a little freaked out right now because, as you guys know, we have been going through the Cassiopeian transcripts. We've been in the 90s. That's been our timeline. We're going back to the beginning. And when I was doing research into our St. Patrick's Day show that we did with Catherine, and I referenced some of the Cassiopeian stuff. As you guys know, if you watch that show, after I did my research into the truth behind St. Patrick's Day, I did enter it into the search engine for the Cassiopeians just to see what they had to say. And as you guys know, there was a lot about the Druids, but not anything about St. Patrick himself. But when I was reading about the Druids and what they had to say, I found a reading from the 90s about JFK. And I saved that reading on my computer because I thought, interesting. Since the JFK file has been released, this would be a very interesting transcript from the 1990s, I believe it was 95, where they talk about JFK. And I thought, that's kind of on brand with what's going on in the world right now and how interesting. I read through the transcript. I'm not going to give you any details right now, but I was like, this is super fascinating. And I'm going to save this for us to go over on Monday. I'm recording this on Monday, even though this is airing on Tuesday. So last night, Sunday night, before I went to bed, I checked to make sure I had everything ready on my laptop to film this morning. Now, right now it is super early in the morning on Monday. I'm having to film this super early because later this afternoon I'm going to be filming a lot of workout videos. And so I needed to get my filming done for YouTube while my makeup looked okay before I filmed the workout videos for the Esoteric Academy. And so my schedule's a little bit flipped. But last night before I went to bed, I set everything up. I had the transcript ready to go that I had been reading and looking into. I had my camera ready to go. I got up this morning, got dressed, put my makeup on, started a load of laundry, and I just sat down to record this reading. And you guys, it's not the reading from 1995 that has been saved on my computer. The reading that now is being saved, that was up for me, is from the 17th of August, 2024. So I was kind of freaked out because, again, last night before I went to bed, I double checked it. I had found this actual reading last Wednesday. So I've had it saved on my computer since Wednesday. I've checked it daily to make sure it's still up and ready to go. And last night when I went to bed, the JFK reading was pulled up. This morning, it's a different reading. So I am going to take that as a sign from the Cassiopeians that we probably need to look at this August 17th reading from 2024, which was only a few months ago. In skimming through it, they do talk about soul smashing, which is fascinating because over on the Esoteric Academy, there's a link down below. We are starting a playlist and a course over the Law of One and the Cassiopeians. Now, with that being said, don't worry. We're going to continue to go through the Cassiopeian material on YouTube. That's not going anywhere. I'm really enjoying this. But we're going to be going through a course over the Cassiopeians and the Law of One on the Esoteric Academy. We're going to be going deeper into the study of this on that platform just for safety reasons. But we'll continue doing the Cassiopeian experiment here on YouTube. So anyway, we had filmed the first episode for that playlist on Saturday. Paula interviewed Todd, where he answered a lot of questions that people submitted about the Law of One and the Cassiopeians. And in that conversation, as I went back and edited it, it'll be up soon, he spoke about soul smashing, which is the same topic that's going to come up in this August 17th reading. And so even though I've just skimmed through it, I think that the Cassiopeians want us to talk about this. That's just my take on it. Why else would why else would the page that I had been saving since Wednesday, which hasn't changed since Wednesday, be changed overnight? There's no other reason why that would have happened. And so, in the conversation that Todd had with Paula, he speaks about like the concept of selling your soul is to believe a lie wholeheartedly, to identify with a lie. And that's also part of soul smashing. So before we get into the August 17th reading, I'm going to actually insert like a 2-minute clip of the interview that Todd did with Paula on Saturday. Now, with that being said, the full interview is going to be up on the Esoteric Academy. It's probably not up yet. It is ready to go, but Paula's got to load it up. But I'm just going to play this right now just so you guys kind of get a bit of a background, because as many of you know, Todd has been a student of the Law of One and the Cassiopeians for decades now. And so he knows a lot, and he can reference and remember a lot of stuff that they have read in the past. So let's just take a quick look at what he said.
Do you think that's really helped you to stay grounded and calm while we've kind of have all of this craziness going on in the world?
Yeah, and how I haven't been caught in this whole thing of, oh, it's a movie just playing out, oh, it's already done, oh, the elite controllers or whatever, they've already surrendered, and we're just have to play this out for the population. It's like bullshit. Like it lacks a foundational understanding of the service to self path. They're never going to give up. Never. Yeah. It just, and so, understanding these foundational, fundamental things about both sides is so important. And that's why the Cassiopeians constantly say, knowledge is going to protect you.
Yes.
It's going to protect you from ways you don't even know and don't even realize. Like, it's going to protect you from believing in lies, because they say that believing in lies is service to self, but also it's soul smashing. It smashes your soul. The more lies you believe in, and the more deeply you ascribe to those lies, the deeper you believe in those lies, the closer you hold those lies, the more you're smashing your soul. Right. Oh yeah, there was another question down there about selling your soul.
Yes, I think.
And so I was just touching on that about believing in lies. That's selling your soul when you deeply believe in the lies. So when you follow the false story, whatever it be, religion or the story of the white hats are saving us, and this is just a movie, that's selling your soul. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty.
But do you think the key is it's okay to kind of explore all these different little avenues and little cul-de-sacs, as long as you're not attached to them?
Exactly right. As long as you don't self-identify with it too much.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn that after with a lot of practice. You'll eventually learn how to do that, and with gathering enough knowledge, and you'll start to understand what the red flags are.
Okay, and again, if you're interested in watching his full interview, it's about an hour, 45-minute interview with Paula. That should be up on the Esoteric Academy this week. I think on Thursday, Paula and I are going to look at it again. Everything from the Esoteric Academy is down in the description box below. Again, you get 7 days of free trial. So if you really just want to watch the interview, you're welcome to, because you do get that 7-day free trial. But nonetheless, we're going to look at the August 17th, 2024 reading, because I believe that's what the Cassiopeians want us to look at. We'll go back and do JFK later this week, but right now I just kind of have that feeling that that's what they want us to look at. I also, before we get into it, before I forget, I want to make this very, very clear. I don't own this material, the Cassiopeian. I don't think anybody does. Like, Laura Knight is the person who has been channeling the Cassiopeians for 31 years, and she's always got people with her, and they kind of interchange. With that being said, I've gotten some messages from people like saying that they potentially want to like cover this stuff on their channel too, and do it. I don't care. No, absolutely don't care if the Cassiopeians talk about networking a lot. Like, part of what they want us to do is to network, which is what we're doing on my channel right now, where we're looking at what they're telling us, and then we're conversating about it. Because sometimes the Cassiopeians don't give us a straight answer, because they don't want to interfere with our free will. And so what that means is that you and I need to talk about this. And in networking, sometimes we're not going to agree, and that's okay. I want to remind you guys that I feel like this is the first time in our historical experience on this planet where it's all of a sudden been like a crime not to fully agree with somebody. But not fully agree, if you have two people who have two opposing opinions, sometimes that's the best scenario, because through that friction of two opposing opinions, you might be able to find the truth. Yeah, does that make sense? So I'm not the gatekeeper of this stuff. I recognize that right now I'm probably one of the only people on YouTube that's going through these transcripts, but that doesn't mean that I encourage you, if you're a YouTuber and you want to also go through these transcripts, please do it, please. Because this is not just about popularity, about getting lots of numbers or clickbaiting people. Like, this is serious. We're at this really, really unique time in our timeline where we are watching two worlds colliding. We are watching the service to self and the service to other world literally colliding and also separating at the same time. And because of all the confusion on this planet with religion, with conspiracies, with all this stuff, it's really hard to figure out like what the truth really is. And so one thing I love about the Cassiopeians and the Law of One is they don't necessarily tell you the truth, but they give you a template. They kind of give you like what the purpose is, what the agenda is, what your syllabus is for being here on planet Earth. So it makes you more grounded in your interpretation of events. And that's the whole point of really looking at that, is that each and every single person, because on this channel, we are actively trying to serve other people. We are service to others. And so we don't share things. I mean, we do share things. We don't keep things secret. We don't gatekeep information. So I'm not gatekeeping the Cassiopeians. I want you guys to, that's why I always put the link in the description box. If you want to go through this by yourself, please do. With that being said, another question I got, somebody had asked, they had gotten the third book, the 1996 or 7 book, I believe is the third book. And they said it was a little confusing. So just a reminder, you guys, if you are confused about who the Cassiopeians are, I would definitely get the Wave series. I think I have the first book here, actually. And we're going to talk about the Wave series over on the Esoteric Academy. Yeah. So this is the first book called Riding the Wave. And so the Riding the Wave series really gives you a thorough background on the Cassiopeians, on Laura Knight, on the team that talks to the Cassiopeians. So you're a little bit more aware of like what's going on, because I could understand, like, if you just started looking at the Cassiopeians without having any background information, it might seem really confusing and you might not know what it is. I would also highly suggest studying the Law of One as well before you start reading the Cassiopeians. So the Law of One, the raw material, talks about the polarities, service to others versus service to self, the friction on this planet. So when you see STS written down, that's service to self, or STO, that's service to others. STS is the negative polarity, STO is the positive. And basically, while we're on this third density planet, we're here to make a choice between which path we want to take. And so taking the service to self path, you have to be like 96% service to self, which is why the elites, the establishment, do what they do. Yeah. So once you understand that, you know why they're doing what they do. And in the service to other path, you have to be 51% service to others. So there's room for mistake. There's wiggle room, right? And so it's just really important to kind of have that background before you actually go into the Cassiopeians, so that you understand like what they're actually telling you. Because if you don't have the background of the Law of One or of the Riding the Wave, it might just not make sense at all. Yeah. So please, for your own research, that's something you might want to look at. A lot of these reference materials can be found online, like in PDF form too. I always like having copies of the books myself because I have it at that point, you know, like it's mine. I can write in it, I can highlight it, you know. That with the forum is online too. And if you want to join the forum, I haven't actually joined. I mean, my boyfriend's on the forum, but I just look at listen, I'm in so many communities. I'm here on YouTube. I'm in the yoga community. I've got my own platform. That to be in another community just seems very overwhelming, but you can still look at the forums without actually signing in and being a member. If you are a member, you can ask more questions. My boyfriend even said that he saw the other day somebody had joined and they introduced themselves and said that they had found the forum through Esoteric Atlanta. So that's yay. That's awesome. That's why I'm doing this, is so that you guys have more of an outlet for your own growth and consciousness and spirituality. So yeah, and then if you want to donate, you can. You don't have to though. It's free. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into that today. If you guys have any more questions about the background of the Cassiopeians, please let me know down in the comment section below so I can cover in the next video, because we're going to continue going through these. So just so you guys know, before today, we've been in the 90s. Now we're going to fast forward all the way to 2024 because I do believe this is what the Cassiopeians want us looking at today. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share screen with you guys. Again, the link to this will be down in the description box below, as always, so that you can look for yourself too. All right, session, the 17th of August, 2024. So just a few months ago. So we have Laura and Andromeda at the board. So they're the ones that are actually in communication with the C's, Cassiopeians, they call them the C's. And then these are the other people that are in the room with them. And then these are the members that are joining from Zoom. Now, it's going to look a little bit different from the 90s because in the 90s, they were brand new to this and there wasn't as many people on the board as there are now. And so you're going to see a lot more conversation between questions between the people on the board. And one thing I respect about them is that they literally write everything down. So even if somebody gets up to go to the bathroom, they write it down. If a dog barks, they write it down. If two people switch seats, they write it down. So you're literally, nothing is being withheld from what was going on in the room when this conversation with the Cassiopeians was happening. Okay, so Laura starts off, she says, let's see if we can get going here. All right, hello. Love to all from Sinoria of Cassiopeia. Their names crack me up. I'm probably butchering their names, but I don't think they really care if we're butchering their names. It's not the point, right? Laura asks, why are we so slow? Is our board ... question mark. Someone says we need power. Laura says, I don't know. Maybe we need a little light dusting. It feels staticky. We've got static on our glass here. Joe says it's probably got moisture on it too from the past few weeks. Laura says, yeah, well, it's been pretty damped. Oh, the introductions. Today is the 17th of August, 2024. And then she introduces all of the people who are present for this reading to the board, to the Cassiopeians, so they know who's there. And then Laura says, you couldn't find the usual one, so we're going to have to use rose. Isn't that a nice smell? Lovely. Where did you get this out of my bathroom? So they're cleaning, right? So they found a rose smell cleaner, probably some rose water. And she's like, did you get this out of my bathroom? And she goes, uh-huh. And Laura goes, stealing my stuff? And she goes, for a good cause. So they write everything down. So you see the banter. Now, at this point, back in the 90s, Laura was living in Florida. I feel the need to tell you guys this. I believe right now, though, at present time, Laura is actually living in France. I think her husband is Polish, I believe. And I think he's working in France. So she's an American who is channeling this in France, just so you guys are aware of where she's located. So some of the names we see, especially for us English speakers, might sound foreign. That's because they're probably French people with French names. And then the people on Zoom are obviously most are American or English speakers. So just so you guys are aware of that. She did move at some point to France. Okay. All right. Now here we go. Okay. We have our introduction. I gave the date, the time, the attendees, and so forth. So we're ready to go. Are we ready to go with questions? And the Cassiopeians says, yes, we're ready to go with your questions. Oh, that's much better. Okay. I wanted to talk about the alleged Aluma Shmati insider. His name is SS. They redacted his name, but he introduced himself as the Ruiner by writing a blog. And according to our AI synopsis, so they are going to talk a little bit about AI. Here we go. This is what the AI said. He presents a narrative of the secret operations of the so-called Aluma Shmati, a group he claims to have been raised within. He describes his various roles, from training with others in telekinetic attack to teaching the operations of cloned bodies, and ultimately disinforming a government agency about paranormal activities. His transition through these roles reflects his struggles with the moral implications of his actions and his abundant consciousness. Okay, so I don't know who this is that they're referring to, but I'm sure you guys, since this is a recent channeling, the Ruiner, I'm sure you guys can look this up. Now, obviously, his name has been redacted for a reason. So I would kindly, please don't put his name in the comment section, just because, as I said in my last, I think one of my last episodes, doing the Cassiopeia material publicly like this is dangerous. It is very, very dangerous. I've talked about it with you guys before. I'm expecting attacks because of it. It's not going to stop me, though. Not a lot is going to stop me. I'm a pretty tough cookie. But just be careful, just because they don't like when we talk about this stuff. So just be careful with what you put in the comment section. All right, so she gave a synopsis of this guy's blog, that he called himself the Ruiner, and that he was raised in one of these establishment families. Solar goes on to say, okay, we're not going to go through the document completely, but he says, first of all, that ascending to a higher density isn't what the human experience is about. So he negates the C's on this point. And I'm not going to be asking argumentative questions like this, so don't get in an uproar here. And here he says, I don't think that anyone doesn't have a soul. I don't think that anyone doesn't have a soul, but there are certainly people who are very disconnected and running on autopilot. But it just reflects two types of people, the transhumanist versus the organic or the natural ones. The NPCs, he says, or non-player characters, are what the Cassiopeians call organic portals, are on a different frequency. They choose not to see things. He says, I don't think it's the case of them not having a soul in the body. I think it's just that they aren't resonating. I think it's temporary. Are there any comments about that? So let's go ahead and kind of go back over this again. So when he's saying that our goal is not to transcend to a higher density, that goes totally against the law of one and the Cassiopeian material. And it also goes against really a lot of other spiritual beliefs, as well as some religions. We're trying to get to fourth density. I mean, we're not really trying to get anywhere. We are where we are, but in the stepping stone of our soul's development, we're going to go from third density, which is where we are now, into fourth density. And after third density is where it forks, right? So you're either going to go fourth density positive or fourth density negative. And so that's why third density is so important, because we are making choices. Do we want to be on the positive side or the negative side? And the Cassiopeians and the raw material don't favor either side, because it's our choice. Yeah. So basically, I think what it looks like, what this guy is saying is he's saying that literally we're just kind of here. Now, organic portals are people who don't have souls. And the Cassiopeians have talked about this extensively. I have a lot of episodes on organic portals. It doesn't mean that one day they won't have a soul, but right now they don't. They only have the lower three chakras. These are a lot of people who have narcissistic personality disorder. Now, not everybody, they're very clear. Every organic portal is going to be a narcissist, but not every narcissist is an organic portal. Some narcissists do have souls, but their souls are in distress. With that being said, you can't help in either situation. So the same rules apply. Instead of trying to figure out who a narcissist is and who a narcissist isn't, or trying to figure out who an organic portal is and who an organic portal isn't, if someone's not healthy for you in your life, that's reason enough to put a boundary up, regardless of whether they have a soul or not. Now, with these NPCs, now this is what I don't get either, because what he's saying is, he says, I don't think it's the case of them not having a soul in the body. I think it's just that they weren't resonating. I think it's temporary. He's saying that basically a lot of people that we would say call an NPC or an organic portal are people who aren't awake. And I argue that. I think there are people who have souls who aren't technically awake, because it doesn't matter. Like in third density, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it doesn't matter what you know. It doesn't matter what you know in order to go to evolve in consciousness. I mean, think about it this way. People who are going fourth density negative also have souls, right? Only people with souls can make a choice. So the people who are going negative, like the Aluma Shati, they have souls just like you and I have souls. And they know the same things that we know. They've just made a choice to continue to hurt people. So it doesn't matter. It means nothing that you know about these or you know about corruption. Doesn't matter. What matters is your actions. What matters is how you treat other people. What matters is your kindness in the world and protecting of yourself in general, right? That's what matters. So there are a lot of people on this earth that I feel like are not awake to what's going on, but they're still going to go fourth density positive because of the way that they treat people and the choices they've made. They're loving people. And you have to remember that sometimes when we're here, not only are we working on going forward into fourth density, but we're also dealing with our own karma too. And so sometimes for a soul, They might be eligible to go forth density positive after this life, but they also might not need the karma that you and I needed. Like, they might not need to know about the corruption in the world. That might not be their karma. And so we can't judge somebody's value as a soul or an unsouled person, or whether they're going to graduate or not. We can't judge that strictly by what they know. I mean, we can't judge that anyway in any form. Like, that's not our business anyway, but it's more over your intentions and your actions. And, for the wanderers in the room, people that came down from sixth density, Todd said this best to me the other day. He said, a lot of times people we assume are going negative are actually not, because they're coming from sixth density. And so the way that their behavior is in the world, they walk a razor's edge between the two polarities, because that's what they know, but they're still going positive. And so with that being said, again, we have no room to judge anybody's soul development. It's not our business. And we don't know that person's karma. We don't know what they signed up for. And sometimes I think in our human world, because there is so much that we're unsure of as human beings, that we try to control other people to give us more validity. And trying to control another person is definitely of the negative side. It's service to self. And sometimes I think it's, even for myself, we have to be reminded that we cannot interrupt anybody else's karma, that it's none of our business. The only business is for us and how we behave in the world. We cannot control anyone else. We can protect ourselves from people that are threatening us, but we can't control. And for some people, they don't need to know about what's going on with the children. Like, they don't need to know that. So why would you traumatize somebody who still doesn't know about that yet, if that's not part of their soul plan to know about what's going on? Why would you, though, then go and take it upon yourself to force them to be traumatized because it makes you feel better or makes you feel superior because you knew something they didn't? Right? It's there's a lot of nuance here. It's not black and white. It's very nuanced. It's very complex. And so, anyway. So let me reread that again. Laura says, okay, well, we're not going to go through the document completely, but he says, first of all, that ascending to a higher density isn't what the human experience is about. So he negates the C's on that point. I'm not going to be asking argumentative questions like this, so don't get an uproar here. And he says, I don't think that anyone doesn't have a soul, but there are certainly people who are very disconnected and running on autopilot. But it just reflects two types of people, the transhumanists versus the organic or the natural ones. The NPCs, he says, are what we would call OPs, are on a different frequency. They choose not to see things. He says, I don't think it's the case of them not having a soul in the body. I think it's just that they weren't resonating. I think it's temporary. Is there any comment about that? And the answer from the Cassiopeian is soul smashing, anyone. Soul smashing. Laura says, what does that mean? Those with the soul can be smashed. Those without simply merge back into the pool. And I also want to point out that there are plenty of organic portals in the truther community. There are plenty of people without souls who are in the truther community. So again, that doesn't even, it doesn't matter what you know. But sometimes what the Cassiopeians are talking about soul smashing, which is exactly what Todd was referring to in his interview. And part of soul smashing is the concept that we know of selling your soul. And it's not what you think it is. Selling your soul, according to the Cassiopeians, basically means that you self-identify with a lie. So whether that lie is religion, whether that lie is the military back channel, the white hat scenario, if you are self-identifying with a story that's outside of your control, that's not part of you, then that is selling your soul. That's soul smash. You're smashing your soul. But the good news is it's reversible. So if you find yourself doing that, we've all done that. I've done that. I think everyone's done that. You can back out and put your soul back together again and become more autonomous in your own, it's kind of like just, I think Todd kept saying, hold on loosely, like that song, hold on loosely, but don't let go. Just hold on loosely, like just observe things, be the witness, see how things play out. Don't identify with this being a part of who you are as a person. Yeah. So she goes, what does that mean? Answer, those with souls can be smashed, those without simply merge back into the pool. Question, Laura. Okay, he says that what AI programs are studying is our magic. That is our human magic, which he defines as what we as humans are originally capable of. Any comment? Okay, so he is saying, Laura says that this guy, the ruiner, is saying that the AI, the artificial intelligent programs, are studying natural human magic. So she answers, or the Cassiopeians answer, any living creature on earth is organic. Humans have souls, at least half of them. Doing anything organically is nothing special, right? So she's saying, like, calm down, you know. And Laura says, so you're saying that whatever human beings do organically is not anything special. Is that what you're saying? Yes. And so you're saying that whatever we do organically is not magic? Yes. Are the AI programs studying our magic? No. Are the AI programs studying anything? Many things. Okay. Do we have something on that, Joe? So she turns to Joe, who's another guy in the room, and he says, the first answer, those with souls can be smashed, those without simply merge back into the pool. How did that relate to the question you asked? So now they're networking. They're trying to figure out what the Cassiopeians were saying, because this is what the Cassiopeians want us to do. They don't want to give us all the answers. We have to figure this out for ourselves. Laura says, I asked them to comment on what I read. Joe says, right, but what you read was... Chu says he was saying everybody has a soul. So the guy from the Aluma was saying that every human being has a soul, where the Cassiopeians are saying, no, not every human being has a soul. Joe goes, right. So ... Laura, it was just a comment. Can any of you guys think of a question about the AI business? Make it quick. Joe says, maybe was the soul smashing anyone? Like they said, answer, was that suggesting that people who listen to or follow what this guy is saying are setting themselves up for that? Laura says that they're being set up for soul smashing. Is that what you're suggesting about that? Yes. So, allegedly, for entertainment and educational purposes only, this guy, from what I'm reading, that claims to have been born and bred into the Aluma is now writing a blog exposing the Aluma as a whistleblower to basically do, he's controlled opposition. Because the establishment, they know all of this. They know how to get you to smash and sell your soul. And it's not what we think it is. It's you believing the lies that they feed you. And those lies aren't just on media. Those lies can, again, be the military back channel. The lies that you sell your soul to is believing that the white hats are going to save you. That's selling your soul. So it's not just in the normie world where people are doing it. It's even more so in the truther world that people are doing it. And I've been screaming this for about 4 years now on this channel. The truther world is way more corrupt and way more controlled by the Aluma than the normies are. And if that triggers you, if me saying that triggers you, then that's a big indication that you've sold your soul. Because if you hadn't sold your soul, that wouldn't trigger you. It would just be interesting. So if you're triggered, then call your soul back, claim your identity back, and stop identifying with things outside of yourself as you. Do some yoga, go on a run, like get back to your life. Okay? Laura says, so people who follow this guy's ideas and buy into it are setting themselves up for small soul smashing. Well, one of the first things he did in this video was, claim how right he was about so many things. And he was like batting 1,000 for however many years and so forth and so forth. And Cassiopeians say by design, service to self sources can be starkly accurate when it suits their agenda. And I've said this before, even for people who believe Bible prophecies are coming true right now. And I hate to sound like mean, but I'm like, are you stupid or something? Like, of course the Bible prophecies are coming true. They wrote the script. They wrote the script. They control the special effects. It's like going to a Broadway play. Everything that happens in that Broadway play is supposed to happen in that Broadway play because they've been practicing that Broadway play for a very long time and the director has set it up that way. By design, service as self-sources can be starkly accurate when it suits their agenda. So if they want you to sell your soul to religion, they're going to make sure that the Bible prophecies come true so that you continue to sell your soul. Take it back. Take your soul back. Laura, okay. He says that the wave was hit. Okay. He says that the wave has hit us and is causing an evolution. The peak of the wave was in 2020. She laughed and said, we missed it. Yeah, we missed it. When Mr. B got, I'm not going to say that word, guys. I'm going to say when Mr. B won the sporting event of that year, we'll say. Laura says, so, I mean, there are just so many points that he is saying that we know aren't true. And I mean, it's not just because the seeds have said so, but because we've done the research and observed. Laura, yeah, so he says that the wave has hit us and is causing an evolution. Answer from the Cassiopeians. The wave is in the early stages and it's causing chaos. Will that lead to evolution? In some rare cases, yes. Question, Joe. Only rare cases, laughter? Laura, I mean, it's just two people came up with a question about AI, if you want them. Okay, so Chu's obviously watching the two people had questions about AI. All right, so Laura says, okay, one question. Can AI read our mind, referring to targeted advertising? Answer from Cassiopeians. No, but it can read your emails, searches, note websites you have visited, and even listen in. So it's not reading your mind, it's doing everything else. Joe, so basically Google, like your phone. Laura, and either draws something directly from what you've been doing or makes assumptions or predictions about where your mind will go based on what you've been doing, saying, or looking at. Is that it? Answer, yes. We're very predictable as human beings. We're very predictable. Question, Laura. It's kind of like that. I don't know if any of y'all saw the video about the guy who's like a mentalist or something, and you're thinking about Darren Brown, who does the programming, pre-programming, and then can guess what you're going to come up with based on Laura. Yeah, Darren Brown. Watching that video is amazing. I mean, if you get exposed to certain things, he took props, basically. He took these people, put them in a car, drove them to an office along a certain route where there were certain things on the side of the road on their way. And then once they got there, asked them to create an advertising program, for whatever it was. And both of them used almost identical elements from the things that they had seen along their route, I mean, it's like a gate to a graveyard and a bear and an angel. I mean, it was bizarre. But the funny thing was that I was noticing the things that were along the route too. So we're going along. I didn't realize what was going on. Okay. And the other question is it a fault with AI that it uses prior assumptions about how information is distributed? And this may be vastly wrong as it's based on 3D assumptions. Is it wrong with most people? Laura, no, probably makes pretty darn good assumptions because it uses prior information about what most people think and do in response to, just like the Darren Brown thing, right? But for people who don't think that way, then obviously they're not going to be so easy to read. People who are not programmable, people who are not impressionable or suggestible in that way. So because there's a spectrum of suggestibility. Laura, okay. He thinks that World War III seems most likely, but we can't really know. According to him, the U.S. competition is part of the show, and Mr. T wouldn't have been in the picture if he wasn't allowed. And this is something I've actually struggled with too, because I go back and forth, and of course that's who I obviously voted for. But I'm taking everything with a grain of salt with that too. I'm trying not to self-identify, right? I'm not going to sell my soul to anything or anyone. Laura says, well, I don't think so, because the C's, long before Mr. T came on the scene and ran for president, and we were watching everything going south at that time, said there was going to be a miscalculation made, and it was going to expose everything. And that's exactly what happened. Mr. T was the winner because of a miscalculation. I mean, they didn't realize how many votes they were going to have to fake for Hillary in order to overcome the massive turnout for Mr. T. and they simply were not prepared. And he was, I believe, a big miscalculation. I mean, maybe they've done a lot of adjusting and they've gotten to him since then, but at that time he was a big miscalculation, and he wasn't allowed to do anything. He managed to get some things done, but I mean, they fought him every freaking inch of the way, and they spent all that time trying to take away his money through lawsuits and his time, his energy, to destroy his mind, his health, everything. I mean, so no, anybody who can't see that, I don't think can see anything. Joe, in a session from 2017, there was a question about if they impeached Mr. T. This was after he became president, and they said, why impeach a perfectly good puppet? And they also said that session that he gave into the deep state, so things changed along the way. Yeah, Laura, Joe, so does that still hold true today? Laura, well, anybody that gets into that position is basically asking to become a puppet because they're so exposed. Joe, is he a willing puppet though? Laura, yeah, well, the Cassiopeians have mixed reviews about Mr. T. I mean, very mixed. So is he a puppet? Is our take on Mr. T close to the reality? And what is our take? What you just described. Oh, I'm just talking about the competition. Yeah, but in general, the guy came in, not a career politician, came in, thought he was going to be president, found out the hard way. Deep state runs the show, and he's just been trying his best since then. He's well-intentioned, but he just isn't able to do anything because they have him by the hamstring. Yeah, well, I think that's what, yeah, I think that's what it is. Is that basically the way it is? Answer, yes. Sorry, guys, I've had to cut a lot because I said in one episode, every time I read this, my nose itches like crazy. Because that means usually when your nose itches, it's truth, right? But that annoying itch in your nose where you can't get in to scratch it. And that's kind of like my boyfriend and I have talked about this many times, about Mr. T. And it's quite naive and lacks a lot of maybe foundational intelligence to really think that he's not going to come up against a lot of scary stuff by doing what he's doing. And the C's have said before that his intentions are good. But there's some things that he just can't do because there's too much pushback. And that goes back into that small soul smashing thing, or selling your soul that the C's were talking about. So if you believe that the white hats are totally in charge and there's no bad guys and it's just a show, you have sold your soul, because that is simply not true. Yeah? The bad guys don't give up. They don't capitulate. They're on the service to self path. It is not part of their moral composition to capitulate, because to capitulate is to surrender, which is service to others. They are knowingly on the service to self path. That is their religion. Okay? So to believe that Mr. T is just in there easy peasy acting out a show is woefully mistaken. He is in a battle right now, as are we. As are we. It's legitimate. And there are going to be things that he's going to have to compromise on in order to stay in the battle. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means it's not as simple as we think it is. Okay. So Laura says, so she doesn't say his name, the redacted name, and Jay said it's mind-blowing that people are still falling for this. If you think Mr. T is your savior from Mr. B, then you're still telling them, I'm stupid and I deserve what you want to give me. I believe that too. If you're falling for this shit still, you're telling the Aluma Shamani that you're an idiot and you're willing to take whatever they're going to give you. Well, I don't think anybody here thinks that Mr. T is a savior from anything, because they're never going to allow him to do anything really significant. Joe, in my opinion, the main purpose or the main service that Mr. T has provided for the people who are able to see it is that by attempting to be the president and do his own thing and then fighting against them, he has exposed them. He has forced them to a large extent to come out of the woodwork and show their hand. It showed the American people and the world population who really runs America, and I'll say and the world. Yes, I agree 100% with what Joe just said. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. If you believe that somebody is coming to save you, that's you selling your soul. That's you giving your power away. All Mr. T came to do was to show you a few things. Now it's up to you what you do with that. It's up to you whether you get this or not. It's up to you whether you start to get involved in local politics to try to course correct. It's up to you now to go to the school board meetings to state your opinion about what's been happening. I'm not going to get too into it in your child's school. It's not up to Mr. T to do that. It's up to you. Mr. T has to take care of himself and his own family. Newsflash, hate to break it to you, but Mr. T is always going to prioritize his family over complete strangers. So you need to be prioritizing your family as well. You need to get off your ass, stop being lazy, and make changes, make choices. The bad guys only win if you're lazy. If you sit back on your laurels and say, oh, it's cool, somebody else has got this. They're just going to come in and they're going to save us. We can just sit around eating bonbons and get fat and poor, and because we got the med beds coming and Nasara's coming. And so it's cool. We're the entitled ones that these other people are going to work their asses off to come and save us. No, that's not how this works. You have to save yourself. Mr. T showed you everything you need to know. Now get off your ass, put your shoes on, go exercise, get your health back, plant in your garden, be informed on what's going on in your kids' school, say no when you need to say no to things like this or these. Because you saying no and putting boundaries up with this Aluma Shmati is what's going to get them to stop, because they cannot cross your free will. They cannot take away your consent. So if you say no to them, you hold the power. You hold the power, not them. They can't force you to get this. If they do, they've broken the rules of the game and they're going to depolarize. That's why it's so important to read the law of one, okay? But meanwhile, if you're just sitting around waiting for someone to come save you, when you can very well save yourself, that's you polarizing negative. That's you giving fuel to the Aluma Shmati. Wake up. The truthers are the most asleep people. I mean, you guys know that the Aluma Shmati sits around and laughs at us, right? In the truther community. They think it's hysterical that we think we're so awake when we're so obviously not. Our arrogance matches their arrogance in the truther community. All right. Okay, so let me read Joe again, because I think that was really important. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but please share this with people in your life, guys, who are still very much asleep and are very much following these truthers who are leading them down into a dark path. Even in the interview with Todd, he talks about how a lot that's coming up, a lot of these influencers on YouTube, the big truther influencers, are actually what they call undergrounders, meaning that they were put in by the Aluma Shmati to mislead you. A lot of these people who have these big events around the world where people come and speak to them, these people are controlled opposition. They're leading you down a dark path. If you're going to these events with these truthers speaking, you're a fool. And they're laughing at you. Not only are you giving them money, but they're laughing at you because they work for the Aluma Shmati. Oh, it's fine. They stand on their podiums or get on their channels. It's fine. The white hats are in charge. They're going to come save you. You're all going to be millionaires. And you're going to get this med bed where you're going to hop in and you're going to be taken back to your 20s again. You're going to lose all this weight. It's fine. Bullshit. Bullshit. They're saying that to you so that you sell your soul to them. Wake up. Don't be an idiot, because they already think you're an idiot. So prove them wrong. Okay, so let's read Joe again. In my opinion, the main purpose or the main service that Mr. T has provided for the people who are able to see it is that by attempting to be the president and to do his own thing and then fighting against them, he has exposed them. He has forced them to a large extent to come out of the woodwork and show their hand. It showed the American people and the world population who really runs America and, again, the world. Laura. Well, yeah, that's what the C said would happen. They said big miscalculation and it would expose the deep state. Joe. Right. So it's not about whether or not Mr. T is going to save anybody. Mr. T's service to humanity was to simply be that kind of guy he is, which, you know, art of the deal. I'm going down fighting and that kind of thing, and force them to show their hand. After that, it's all gravy. Laura, yeah, I mean, they'll never let him really do anything significantly effective. Never. Joe, and they just tried to unalive him. Laura, yeah, okay. Now, there was something that was on that video about clones, and that bothered me a lot because it seems to me that they didn't understand what a clone is, or that they were using the terminology loosely. I'm going to describe what a clone is. If anybody has information that alters what I'm going to say, speak up. From what I understand, a clone is when the DNA of a selected individual, whether it's a sheep or a human, is implanted into a fertilized egg or embryo, which then gestates with this changed or switched out DNA, and it is born or hatched or whatever in a normal way, and then goes through a growing up process and becomes basically a genetic duplicate of whatever the source of the DNA was. And they're talking about it as though you can make a clone last week, run it for a couple of weeks, and then it's just kind of runs down like a robot, and you have to toss it aside. And that's like they're assuming that there is some super rapid growth process, and then they put this DNA through to produce a clone of something or somebody. So does anybody have information on that which could change what I just said? Now, remember, too, what they said, and I'm going to put a picture up of Taylor Swift and Anton LaVey's daughter right here so you guys can kind of see. In my opinion, that's what we're saying. That's just my opinion, that they took the DNA, put it in the embryo, and that's what, so I think Taylor Swift's parents are her parents, but I think the DNA was put in it, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's just my opinion, allegedly for entertainment and educational purposes only. And from what I understand, too, from what the C's have said, is that people with souls cannot be cloned. They cannot do that. So that throws everything out the window when it comes to like all the political leaders having a clone. All the actors, not all of them do, because if you have a soul, they can't do that. You can have a body double that looks kind of like you from far away, maybe a mask that looks like you, but they cannot clone you if you have a soul. The only people they can clone are people who don't have souls. You can't clone God's work. I think your definition of a clone is accurate from what scientists do, but it's like it's like in the sessions, the C's, when they talk about clones. That was the Maya and Kaya discussion when they talked about actually duplicating an unalived body. And it sounds from the discussion that what they were talking about was that 4D, service to self, will actually create a duplicate of the body at the age that it was unalived at, and then reinsert that body. So I think there are two types of clones. There's the traditional, like human science cloning, where they do as you say, and you create a new being from an embryo to, full growth. And then there's the kind of like paranormal weird version where they create an actual duplicate of a body that exists at a particular state and age. Laura, okay, well then, but this kind of doesn't really get into the hyperdimensional aspect of things that come along later and demonstrate that he has no real idea what it is. A hyperdimensionally manufactured clone would be manufactured, as you say. It is manufactured in hyperdimensional space and basically an exact match of somebody. And then it can be put back into 3D. If that is done, does such a clone that is manufactured in hyperdimensional space and then is put into 3D to function in some way, does that type of clone of like run out of gas or deterioration in a short period of time? Answer from the Cassiopeians, not usually. Normally the clone body is then occupied by the life force of the donor. So a body that is cloned in 4D and put back in 3D could then theoretically go on to live a regular lifespan. Joe, that's like bringing the person back to life. Laura, yeah, Joe, their life force goes back into the cloned body, so it's the same person. Laura, yeah, but they've been cloned in a new body that's based on the old one, and the life force that just goes into the new one, they put them back in. Joe, somebody is unalived in a war and gets all mangled up, take the body in 4D, fix it up, put them back in, and off you go. Nothing happened. Is that the soul also being cloned? Answer, not normally done with fully souled beings. And Todd goes into that with Paula as well. There's a lot that they can't do with people who have souls. They just can't. They can't do things with people who have souls. Although the one thing that can happen to soul peoples is abductions. They won't abduct. The aliens won't abduct people who are organic portals. They have no reason to. There's no soul. They're not really fascinated by our container, our body. They're fascinated by the soul. And so people who don't have souls typically don't get abducted. And anytime you're abducted, it's always negative. It's not for the, because it's breaking your consent, right? All right. So the answer is from the Cassiopeians, not normally done with fully souled beings. So fully souled beings, this doesn't happen to us. Laura, so in other words, that's what they do with organic portals. They have life force, you know, the soul pool thing, and Joe, they're less resistant to just getting back in and getting on with it. Whereas a souled person that was unalived in a war or something like that, or however they were unalived, that may have been the end of their normal planned soul cycle. It's not like a soul, it's not like get back in, you just say, I had voted to check out at this point, so bye-bye. Plus there's a problem of trauma to be the soul that's registered everything and forgets nothing. Oh my God, you guys, my nose. Is anybody else's nose is itching while reading this? Whew. So basically, when we as souled people, when we finally leave, I have to be careful with the words I say on this channel. You guys know the D word, and we finally croak. For our souls, that's because that's the time that our soul agreed to leave the ride. Right? Our soul already agreed that we're going to leave the ride at this date, at this time, on to the next experience. But with an organic portal, because they don't have a soul, there is no soul plan. So their life force essence can jump into a new body without any hesitation, where a soul is going to be like, wait. I don't want to get back in that body because that was not the plan. The plan was now for me to go to the next adventure. See what I'm saying? Laura. Okay, so this redacted guy, the Ruiner, that they, says that they, i.e., I guess the Aluma people, need bodies for armies. He thinks that they tested one or several around the Super Bowl in LA, where the cops were popping out of the subway. Were they testing these types of cloned bodies? Answer, they often do. So they often test cloned bodies. Laura. But they would be testing bodies that were cloned, as you described, you know, like hyperdimensionality cloned, and it would not be necessary to be the Aluma doing it. Answer, yes. Laura, so apparently redacted name says underground bases are not fourth density. They're just big empty spaces underground. Answer, false, and part of his mission. So Cassiopeians are saying this bro, this whistleblower, ain't a whistleblower. He's controlled opposition. Laura, so you're saying that part of his mission is to distort and mislead or even directly contradict what the Cassiopeians have said. Answer, yes, because the Aluma the Cassiopeians, they fear the Cassiopeians more than anything, okay? That's why it's dangerous to be putting this out. So please share it. We want more people to see this for their own, so they can get on the Cassiopeian forum themselves and start figuring things out for themselves. Question, Joe. You didn't ask about his background. Laura, well, hold on, it's coming. He says underground cities are a different thing. And that's for if you make it into the Aluma, that's where they live. Is that true? Answer, no. So they're not going underground. The Aluma is not going underground. Laura, okay, so the Aluma do not live in the underground cities. Well, you've already described underground cities for us in the past, so they are for fourth density service to self activities. Where do the Aluma live? Answer, all over the planet. But they are there are a very limited number of them. I remember this now. This is actually kind of funny. Question, like how many? Yeah, like how many? Rough estimate. Answer, less than 3,300. Answer, our question, why are there so few of them? They keep their genes strictly to themselves. As a result, inbreeding has led to a decline in their numbers. Laura, well, this guy, redacted, said he's an offspring of a Aluma descended mother and I guess a truck driver father or something like that. Laughter, yeah. How likely is that? Answer, 0% likely. They're not gonna, they don't see having a baby as a joyous occasion between two people who love each other, right? They're only going to breed with people who have my blood type, O negative. For some reason, the Aluma Shmati loves an O negative, and it's because we got nothing in our blood. And O negatives do tend to have more like psychic abilities, and so they want to harness that for themselves. So they're not just going to go boinking around with any old Joe Schmo out there. You know, they're not going to hokey pokey. And if they did hokey pokey with a Joe Schmo out there and a baby was the result of that, I don't think that baby would make it intentionally, if you guys know what I mean. That's not how they, everything is designed for them. Question. So is it really likely the way it's described in the Georgia LeCaire book that any offsprings that are born from somebody who's from the Aluma Shmati family with somebody who's an outsider is unalived, or actually they try to prevent them from being born, force them to, you know, they don't allow them to be born. So what is this guy's backstory? I mean, did he come out of some kind of cult? No. Joe, is he a LARPer? What's a live action role play? Answer close. Very bright, but narcissistic, and thus sort of Dunning-Kruger in his research. I don't know what that is. Guys, let me know. I'll probably look at it after when I'm editing. So he's not. This guy is pretending to be a whistleblower. He's not. He's just a narcissist. He's trying to get some popularity to go against the seas to tell you what you want to hear. And so he's being used, whether he knows it or not, as controlled opposition. Laura. So if he wanted to make everything realistic, he could have researched longer and harder and come up with better answers. Is he doing this just because it's like a grift or something? Or is he an agent? So he's a former agent. Question, Joe. Dude on the internet talking nonsense to make money. A lot of people on the internet talk nonsense to make money. Laura, so in other words, I don't really need to go through the rest of these questions. I mean, it says that he says the Draco headquarters is in Canada and repurposed by human controllers. It's what they call Babylon. Joe, he's probably got chat GPT to make up most of it and put it on his website. I just wrote a book. I can write a book tomorrow with chat GPT. Laura, he also said the most powerful manifestors in the world seems to be the sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists. And they manage to do that without a solid foundation because they have powerful convictions. And convictions is, oh dear, he hasn't got a clue about psychopathy. Well, okay, so much for that. I mean, I think we've spent enough time on this. Change gears. Let me ask you. Is the Billionaire Banker series by Georgia LeCaire, I hope I'm saying that, Carrie, the closest we can get to looking behind the scenes into the Aluma Shmati families, their relationships, how they operate? Yes. So I am going to look into this, guys. But there you go. There's the author. If you want to read any books about that they're saying is the closest to what the truth is. Question, Laura. The only problem is it's chick-lick P-word. So, I mean, I have to be careful with the words, guys. So, I mean, it's not like really a book you'd want to recommend to anybody. Gee, so I guess it's very explicit. Joe, maybe it depends on the person, but like, I don't need to read that book to know, because after over 20 years of periodically getting little intonation of what goes on in that circles, it's like, yeah, I don't want to read about it. Same, I'm that way too. We know, I don't need to know anymore. Laura, yeah, well, actually, in a certain sense, the P graphic element is entirely appropriate to the Aluma Shmati groups. I mean, you know, they're, wow, pretty sick individuals. And yeah, in this book, The Other Side of Midnight, which is related to a Billionaire Banker series, is that a metaphor for 40 servant-to-self relationship with humanity? Answer, very close. Laura, but part of the story is that one of these service to self type dudes somehow turns over and becomes service to others in the end. Is that a possibility? Answer, yes, but very, very rare. Laura, okay, well, has anything on these previously two topics excited any of you to any curiosities or questions that are related to them before we move on to our next topic? Laura, Ryan says, Laura, I was actually wondering if the C's would tell us how many humans are in the quorum. Answer, quorum is mostly hyperdimensional, few humans. And we talked about the quorum many times. Please go back and watch the past videos. I'm not going to get into it now in this video, but I will tag the past videos down in the description box below. Laura, is that enough? Are you really angling for an exact number? Ryan, I was hoping they could tell us how many of the human portion of the quorum was. They said very few. Answer varies. So I guess it varies from time to time. Okay, now I want to ask about Jean-Pierre Granier-Mellet's theory of the doubling of time and space. Is this theory that he's come up with, his idea that time and gravity and space are so forth, it could never be elucidated with any clarity? Are they close to being descriptive of different densities? Answer, close, but not close enough, and he has some things extremely backwards. And I'm not familiar with this guy. Question, Laura. Well, he says that he came to this idea sometime, I think around 1988 or something, and that he had an encounter with a being apparently for 15 minutes, and all this stuff came into his head, and because of his background in physics and engineering. He's in engineering, but also, what was it? Hydrodynamics or something? Yeah. So he's got a background that is kind of similar to Jean-Pierre Petit's, except that after he got his PhD, he quit and went off to work in the theater. And that's kind of like a real strange combination. So what kind of being did he have an encounter with? A 4D service to self being. They do this all the time, you guys. That's one of the biggest things I've learned from this forum. Do you know, in a past forum I was reading, that every single time that somebody thinks they have seen the Virgin Mary, like all the times in history, it wasn't the Virgin Mary, it was a Lizzie. Most of the time, when people are seeing spirits, not ghosts, but like interdimensional spirits, angels, demons, it's a Lizzie. Because most of the time, a positive being, that hyperdimensional positive being, will not interfere with your free will. So you have to take every single thing you see, every single thing you think you've channeled, with a huge, massive chunk of salt. Massive. Don't even identify with your own experiences as far as with relationships with other beings, because you 99% of the time are being duped. And I think that's why there's so much manipulated spirituality out there at this day. So much, 99% of the channeling out there is bunk, because people are being manipulated by these higher density demons, basically. But their egos, because they think they're special. No, we're all special. All of us are special. You're not more special than anybody else on this planet. But our egos want to believe that. And so we put this shit out there thinking we've got some special communication with God. Guess what, my friends? We're all prophets. All of us have communication with God. You ain't special. You're not special. And if your ego gets in the way, the Lizzies love that, because they can use you as a tool to manipulate and hurt other people. Don't be that tool. Don't do that. Okay. And why did they give him this information? To muddy the waters, to confuse people. Laura, okay, but what about this thing about cycling around space and time? He says they cycle around, and he even draws a picture of it. It's like a cycling yin-yang single almost. And it seems to me that when the cycle comes and meets in the end, you know, like the past and the future and everything kind of meets in the middle, that would be the definition of the whole wave process. And that he's saying that all the space and time does this, and that it's a cycle forever, and that it kind of fits with some of the Cassiopeians' definitions about the wave. They see it's always there, it's cycling through the universe forever. And so that struck me as being very close to what he was talking about, this cycle of space and time and this doubling. Is this in fact the case? Yes. Okay, so they can give correct information to then muddy the waters later, right? So they gave him the correct information about the wave, but everything else was incorrect. So if this was done very carefully, we could extract something from what he has written. I mean, very little, probably like 2% of the whole book, but it might still be useful. Is that true? Yes. Laura, okay. Is it true that every observer exists simultaneously in different time scales? Answer, we have told you this. His idea of time scales is more akin to densities. Question, Laura, well, since he's so vague, and we already talked about it at some length, I guess we'll end that topic and get to some of the group's questions. How long have we been on here? 1 hour 16. Laura, for this session, no, this session alone has been going for probably an hour now. Laura, okay, here are some questions. All right. According to the British NP, NATO is planning a dirty, false in Europe. He says services tell me there is going to be a September-like activities from 2001. You guys know I can't say that date. Nuclear in Europe. And he asks, unless NATO is behind it, how would UK intelligence services know? Is this on the table for Europe or the U country? Answer, very possible. Sometimes, and here's what I've learned too from this, guys, sometimes just by talking about some of their future plans that allegedly might be happening gets them to stop it because we've already let the cat out of the bag. So that's why it's important to share these videos, okay? Question, what is the total percentages of votes this guy, I'm going to be careful saying these names, obtained? 63. 63%? Yes. Well, that's higher than what they said in the polls. Yes, they tried to rig it against him. Is this another Mr. T-like situation? Joe. And then said that he rigged it with the lower figure they gave. They said he rigged that. Yeah, they're such liars. They're terrible. I think in the beginning, Joe and Nail had questions. What's at the top of the list? Didn't you start at the top? She did. No, the very top. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is them trying to just get organized, guys. Like I said, they write everything down. Oh, it said Joel and Nail have questions about Mr. T. Well, that wasn't a question, so I just ignored it. Laughter. It was very tiny. It's a very short question. Very quick, easy answer. All right, go for it. Did this dude that allegedly pew Mr. T actually at Mr. T, was he the one pewing at Mr. T? At Mr. T. You guys, I'm sorry, I know that sounds weird if you're driving. I can't say that on YouTube. So go ahead and take it, pause it, read it for a second. Answer is yes. Question. And he got pew, all of the 8 attributed to him. Yes, you might have to look at the screen for this, guys. Was it his B word that hit Mr. T? Yeah. Did one of his B word hit Mr. T's ear? Yes. So it was just, let's say, so it's just luck, let's say, that made Mr. T turn his head. Answer, divine intervention. Question, Joe, divine intervention by Mr. T's higher self? Yes. Empowered by mass prayer? Was this guy, not going to say his name, groomed in any way? Yes. So he was handled, okay? At this point in the conversation, Todd came home. You want to hear something crazy? So I had set up last night, I had it all set up on my computer to film this morning. Yeah, I feel like the C's were like, no, you read this one. Because Todd just did, that interview is posting this week. So this is important.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the more most things to go over is how you sell your soul, what's meant by that, and how you would smash it.
Yeah. All right, you guys, sorry I stepped away for a minute because my Todd just walked in and I just told him the story of what happened, how I've been prepping this show from the transcripts from JFK, and how crazy it was when I woke up and it was a different form that was up on my screen. And he goes, yeah, because this is one of the most potent readings they've ever done. This is so important about the soul smashing and selling your soul and believing in lies. He goes, so I definitely believe that the C's probably wanted us to do this today. So please share this with your friends and family, guys, people who are open to listening to this, because this is so important. All right, so let's go back to Mr. T. So was this guy, not going to say his name, groomed in any way? Yes. So he was handled. Okay. Was there another on site? Yes. Did the other one take out the other guy? Yes. And guys, again, look at the screen. I cannot say half of these questions. You guys know why. And where did he from? Was he behind? Yes. He was behind him in the building, in one of the windows. One of the people? Yes. The last window? Maybe. Joe. There was at least one little UFO type thing moving very fast. We don't know if there were one or two. There was definitely one that was caught clearly, maybe a number of seconds before pew. It flew over the building or that general area, and it had a little kind of antenna on the back. You could freeze frame it to see it. And then there were other camera angles that saw another further away with a more ball-like structure, though it could be the same one. But anyway, it was some kind of anomalous, unidentified aerial vehicle in the air at the time of the pew-pewing. What was that? Who owned it? Answer, it was a drone, drones. And these are 3D drones run by Intel types, yes. And was it really moving at that speed? It seemed to have been. Was it moving at 2,000 miles an hour or something like that? No, it wasn't, because it was probably closer than you imagine. Maybe it was, but it was moving extremely fast. Yes, way faster than any drones you can buy, even the top end, the best of them. And what was his purpose? Was it there just to monitor? Did it have any purpose other than monitoring the situation? Mind control signals on the kid? Answer, yes. Wow, was that an attempted, was that the, I'm not going to say this question, you guys, again, so just please look at it just because of the platform. If you're watching this on the R platform, I apologize, but this is also going up on YT, so I want to be very careful because we want as many people to see this as possible. You got to play the game. In order to win the game, you got to play the game. So was the attempt, okay, so look at that. They mentioned the program changed in the meeting with the quorum, and they talked about the program change upcoming. This was like maybe February or March. They said it was in a time scale of months. Was that, I'm not going to say what's in brackets here, the anticipated program change and it got subverted, or is the program change still to come? Program had to be changed to avoid mass violation of free will. We have spoken about this many, many times. So this is definitely a review of some stuff that we have spoke about before. So basically, oh my God, my nose, you guys, this is itching so bad. Basically, I'm going to take that, as annoying as this is, I'm going to take it as a good sign. Basically, I think this is hysterical. The quorum, again, is like the principal's office. You in a soccer game, you either get red carded or yellow carded, right? Red card, you're out of the game. Yellow card is like a warning. And the service to self entities, the 4D entities, so not the people, the establishment on our planet, those are 3D people. They worship and serve these 4D entity beings. So these 4D entity beings give them information, tell them to do certain things in order to manipulate population to give them more power, right? Because darkness can't create anything. It can only take from the light and the invert. So it runs off of us, of our emotion, our choices. Well, basically, because of everything that's been going on, all the cheating, the quorum stepped in and yellow carded the 4D negatives and said, if you continue to cheat, if you continue to do stuff that is going against the free will of the people or the consent of the people, you're out of the game. Red card, you're out of the game. And so the 4D entity beings were like, oh shit, we don't want to depolarize. So they just stopped talking to the Illuminati and the establishment. They like will go to do these ceremonies and they just wouldn't be there. Like that's their service to self. They're not going to pop in and say, hey guys, we got to pull back a little bit. No, they're just not going to show up. So that's why I think we're seeing a lot of like shenanigans too, because, you know, the Elizabeth Warners, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Maxine Waters, the people, the entities they worship and have been talking to are no longer talking back to them. So they're kind of stranded. They've been thrown under the bus. So they don't know what to do, right? Hysterical, in my opinion. So they had to pull the program in order to not depolarize themselves because they were interfering with our own free will too much. So the program was had planned the yes, and it was changed to avoid mass violation of free will. Who made the decision to change the program? Quorum, the principal's office. They came in and yellow carded. Right, so they had a good think about it and thought it was a bad idea. Answer, violation of free will on that scale are similar to violation of gravity in your realm. So it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So it was strange that such smart people in the quorum would not have realized that it was a bad idea from the get-go. Laura, well, I don't think they expected so many people to be praying for Mr. T and to be supporting him. That's the free will, right? Yes, because that suggests that they didn't change it. It was because it was Mr. T that prevented his own, yeah, in a sense. They still intended to So they didn't change the program. The program was changed by other forces linked to Mr. T's higher self or whatever. Yeah, but it's all still woven together. It is like divine intervention, like they said. Yeah, so it was both Mr. T's higher self and the bad guys that stopped it because they were getting yellow carded. So the bad guys stopped it from happening, not as a service to Mr. T, more as a service to themselves so they wouldn't lose the game. Does that make sense? Well, anything else, Neil? On that, no. All right, moving on. One quick question. Laura, is it still the good guys in the quorum who intervene? Answer, not the right concept, because they're sixth density. So in sixth density, it's mixed. It's both. Yeah, remember the quorum think in terms of it's not good guys or bad guys. It's what will work. And remember, they are thinking of resistance and balance as well. If they were going to off Mr. T, then there's so much support for him, at least among them. At least some among them then realize that's a breach and that's going too far. It's like Ross said, you know, the law of one. If they go against free will of humanity, service itself gets degaussed. So that's raw as the law of one. There's a blowback. Yeah, serious blowback. Because in one of the last sessions, when talking about the quorum and program changes, they said that the quorum was meaning to affect change, to produce more control, and we discussed it. But what control would lead to more resistance? Because more balance is needed. So it brings the question of whether these people in the quorum are aware of the broader scale of such things. Laura, they might have lost control completely if they hadn't actually succeeded. Right? So the 4D entities would have been out of the game if they had succeeded that. They would have been thrown out of the game. Joe, right. They're aware of the broader dynamics involved and how balance is needed. But, you know, because it is weird, they're planning to create resistance by introducing some kind of another one of these or some things that are going to make people suffer, some sort of extra control that will cause resistance, and that creates more balance, right? So it's almost like the idea of people who are intending evil but doing good. So you guys see what they're saying? In order for us to graduate positive, we need the resistance. If you've ever invoked on shadow work or any self-healing, you know this is true. It's like weightlifting. In order for us to go positive, we need the resistance from the negative ones. Because if we were super comfortable, we would never change. We need this to happen. That's the balance of the law of one. We both need each other. I know that's going to be hard for some people to hear who are still thinking very dualistically, but we actually need each other. But they're aware of that as well at the same time. So it's probably kind of some high level stuff and it's not so simple. Laura, it's a way of thinking that we hardly can fathom. Joe, it's big picture thinking, you know. Laura, all right, next question. Javier, okay, Javier Milei's unauthorized biography and Inner Circle claim that he had divine revelation in 2019 that prophesied to him that he would be the president of Argentina. I hope I'm saying his name right, you guys. So if you're from Argentina, let me know. The story goes that when his dog Conan passed away in 2017, Milei was devastated. It was at the same time that he contacted a medium who taught Milei's sister how to communicate with his dog. It is thought it is through his sister that Milei communicated with his dog, and it is through the dog that Milei talks about an entity he calls the One. Is there any truth to this story? If so, what is the nature to the One? Oh boy, Laura, Jesus Christ, is worse than I thought. That's what he claims. This is politics today. First of all, is there any truth to this story? Yes. Oh dear. Oh dear. What is the nature of this One that Milei talks to through his dog? 4D service to self. I'm telling you guys, the Lizzies use. I would be the same way if my dog passed away. I would be devastated. I would be inconsolable. And I would want to talk to him on the other side. So what a very vulnerable position I would be in to consent to trying to speak to what I believe is my dog. But what if I'm speaking to what I believe is my dog and I don't ask for sure? If I don't say, okay, are you really Conan or are you something pretending to be Conan? Did he ever ask that? Because if you ask that, they have to tell you the truth. But if you want to believe, that again goes back to selling your soul, to soul smashing. If you want to believe in the lie that you're actually talking to your loved pet, they can manipulate you all that you want. So you are speaking to something. He is speaking to something through his sister. He thinks it's his dog. It's not. It's a Lizzie. That's why he's all for, I'm not going to say that, but a follow-up question about Maduro. Was Elon Musk involved behind the attacks against Venezuela, as Maduro pointed out when Elon was criticizing their election results? Only peripherally. You guys, I'm sorry, my nose is itching so bad. He only had peripherally had some involvement in what happened in Venezuela. Laura, I think Elon Musk has some serious blind spots in lack of deep and thorough education. Is that the best way to describe what's going on with him? Answer: close enough. Plus the drugs he does, probably ketamine. They're all caught up in the American dream. It's a hard habit to break. Yeah, the team is going to make it. Was there an agenda behind the, I'm not going to say that, or was it really an accident? Do you want me to explain that, Laura? Yeah, it says, ask Joe, explain that. We don't need the C's, we've got Joe. No, just to explain, do you remember the crowd? I'll just say it one time. I don't know if I can't say it, CrowdStrike incident. Laura, yeah, the internet went down or something. Yeah, okay. So do you know what that is? Yeah, where the internet and airport software and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the whole internet. It was just, no, here and there. Yeah, so what kind of question? The first question, was it an accident or was it just a bug? Laura, was it an accident? Joe, as they claimed, answer, no. So it was a testing of their ability to shut stuff down. Answer, yes. Okay, that's what we figured. Oh my God, you guys, I swear to God, when I get up and go talk to my boyfriend, my nose stops itching. When I get on here and start to do this with you guys, my nose itches like crazy, like crazy. All right, so basically when we talk about like the 10 days of darkness, you guys know that by now. That's not the good guys. That will be the bad guys doing that. The good guys would never shut down our way of living, right? Like our electricity, our heat, our air conditioning, they would never do that. That's coming from the dark side. Okay, so that's what they're practicing. That's what they said. They're practicing on doing that. A report claims, based on food production and consumption statistics, that the population of the UK may have been as high as 80 million people 17 years ago. The official number today is 67. Is the official number accurate? Answer, no. If not, what is the nearest million? 89. Holy shit. Oh my God. What is the population of France to the nearest million? 76. Okay, that's about 10 more than officially. No wonder people have a problem finding a doctor. So they are stuffing Western countries with people who are undocumented. Answer, yes. And they're not part of any census. And this is why there's backlash. People know something is wrong. They don't have the numbers like this. They don't have, but they're like, there's 1,000 new people in their community overnight and they're rioting. The thing is, we should have realized that, because years ago, when we asked about the population of the planet, and officially it was 7 billion, but the C said it was closer to 8. So there's an extra billion people to be accounted. I'm assuming from the whole answer that was because, well, our number counting out there in Africa and Asia is so, but it's not there in Africa. It's here. Like they're in France, right? But it's in the Western world that where there's an overabundance of people that they're inserting into, which we're handling now in the United States, you know. So it's more like it would be the wealthy countries, right? There's an increase in population would be in cities, and the UK is tiny, 90 million people. Well, think about it. Tokyo, Mexico City. What is the probability of a mega earthquake occurring in the next 6 months? 48%. So it's little less than half. In the session of January 21, 1995, the Seas predicted a sequence of 13 earthquakes before an M96 earthquake in or near Tokyo. And according to the Volcano Discovery database, 13 earthquakes, M7 plus, have occurred since 2003 near Tokyo. Is this M9.6 earthquake still valid within the present timeline? Yes. So if you're in Japan, pay attention to this. Question: if this M9.6 earthquake is still valid, would this be the earthquake that the Japanese authorities expect to occur? I'm just going to say in this location. Yes, so if you know anybody in Japan, send this to them. It's just not going to be within the next 6 months. Is it possible it's going to be sooner? Possible. I guess anything is possible. Okay. There have been cases of attachment that persisted over several incarnations. When a host goes to 5D, where did the attachment go when there's still an energetic karma affinity to the host waits in the Earth's sphere? So let me explain this a little bit. So fifth density is a density we ascribe to get to, but it's also a resting place. So every time that you leave an incarnation, you go to fifth density and rest for a minute and recalibrate, because that's the density of wisdom, before you come back down again. So your karmic attachments stay in the Earth sphere waiting for you to come back. After you've created your next syllabus, you've gone through your rest, and you're ready to come back in. So that's like it waits for the host to reincarnate. Answer: yes. So it kind of waits in a limbo, in the ether. Yes. Altier and Cosmos are asking what is the real population of Germany. But if we start asking about every country, please, you can probably add 10 million to every country, more or less. Though I think it's a Western thing. Germany and the US would be interesting. Japan almost has no immigration. It's very selective. Renee Quinton used seawater from a platonic-rich environment in her medical practice. Charles Schnabel promoted the health benefits of juice powder made from cereal grass grown on mineral-rich soil. Watson Price used butter from cows fed on cereal grass as a source of activator X. Julius Hensel praised his psychological breed made by fermenting the wheat flour mixed with a mineral powder. It looks to me that minerals in certain form might be the reason why those gentlemen have had such positive results in their practice. Do minerals play a role in formation of beneficial information in certain foods and nourishment? Indeed. So that's a Big 10-4. Didn't the sea say something about this once? Trace minerals. Yeah, minerals being very important and being bound up in the right food. Right. Is taking the line pollen beneficial for longevity and sea prevention? So-so. So it's not bad and it's not good. Can take pine pollen orally safely boost testosterone levels in males? No. The genome of New Zealand's Pinus radius has 25 million base pairs. It is the beneficial effects of consuming this pollen. According to research, an anecdotal experience related to this According to research, an anecdotal experience related to the vast amount of information. Close. So it's more the quality of information that these pairs encoded for. Close, more research needed. Dr. Rashid A. Butter says the all-contained dormant virus encapsulated in lipid nanoparticles, which can be activated using specific 5G frequencies. Is this concept generally true, including with other EMFs? So I'm not going to say this. You guys know if you're driving or something, you might want to look down. We're talking about the cure, the bippity boobop that goes in the arm. And their answer is generally yes, that these particles can be activated through different like 5G. I think we already knew that though. Are there any technicalities assembled to be really... Are there any technologies accessible to really protect from harmful frequency technologies? Answer: has been discussed in previous sessions. Silk was one of them, but it's not necessarily a technology. Yeah, but there was also a discussion about using countering frequencies, find out what frequencies that is coming at you is, and then have a device that can emit one that cancels it out, because you're dealing with waves, right? So you send out a canceling wave. So canceling waves and silk and Q-links. Our brain can send out canceling waves, theoretically. So if these nanobites, as they are called, exist, what is their main purpose? Mind control, or health deterioration, or something else? Answer: either or. Joe, can they be shed? Can you contract them from people who have had them in the batches of the bippity boobops. Cut them up. What was that? Cut them up? Huh? Chemical cleaving, like detox. Yes. Sometimes they... That's funny. Like, what do you mean cut them up? Sometimes the C's, because they're not in our density, right? They say stuff and it sounds funny to us, but they meant like do a detox. You basically need to do a detox if you're collecting the particles, if you did not get the bippity boopop, doo-wop in your limb. Now, one thing I want to remind you guys that there's no such thing as a placebo when it comes to the bippity boppity doo-wops. Why is that? Because remember, free will. Free will. Free fucking will. If you're a nurse and someone comes to you and says, hi, I'm here for the bippity boppity doo-wop, and it's available to them, you have to give it to them. If you give them a placebo or a fake one because, for their own good, that's what the Yahtzees did. The Yahtzees said for greater good too. So you have to give people what they ask for. If people are giving out placebos, then they're on the service to self path because you're injecting yourself into somebody else's karma. You're trying to control somebody else's karma. Their sole plan might have been to experience that bippity boppity doo-wop and learn that lesson. But if you intervene and you stop them from learning that lesson because you think you know best, then shame on you. You didn't save that person. You did not save that person. You only damned yourself. Any truther out there telling you that these bippity boppity doo-wops are placebos, that's a huge red flag for a controlled opposition truther. There you go. That's one of the red flags. There's no such thing as a placebo bippity boppity doo-wop out there. So if you're around people who with consent chose to get it, and you're afraid that you're picking up some of the particles, just detox. What else is detoxing? Exercise. Take care of your health. What would you use for that? So they're going to kind of go into some different ways that you can detox. I'm going to not read that because that's different people, different strokes for different folks, different things going to work for different people. Please do your own research with detoxing, depending on your dosha, so your disposition. Some detoxes are not going to be good if you're a particular disposition, right? We're all energy, we're all matter, and all of us have our own karma within our own energy, so what works for somebody is not going to work for you. So please be very careful with detoxes. Again, do your research, figure out your dosha, your disposition, so that you know what type of detox is good for you. So they're basically saying people who have had the bippity boobops, who have these nanobites in them, they are sheddable. And answer is under some circumstances. And Laura, well, I guess schmecks are sharing bodily fluids of some sort or blood transfusions. Yeah, things like that. Listen, I'm in a relationship, so whatever. My partner he's not bippity boobopped. Neither one of us are. But if something were to happen and I was out there again, I would never, that would definitely be a hard no. If somebody I was dating had the bippity boobop, I would not be doing a hokey pokey. Absolutely not. No. No. And with these things too, I would make sure it doesn't have the bippity boobop. It actually was funny because I know a few years ago they were asking for more O negative, which is what I am, who had not been my mind's gone blank now. The charity that takes blood donations. My mind's gone completely blank. The blood drive people. Anyway, they were asking for more O negative blood. Now, O negative blood is important for them to have because as an O negative, I am the universal donor. I can only receive O negative, but anybody can take my blood. But they wanted O negative blood specifically that had not been bippity boo-wopped. They're out there telling people you got to go get the bippity boo-wop because if you don't get the bippity boo-wop, then you're a racist and a bigot and you can't live in society and you should be put in an internment camp. You guys remember that. We all went through it because I absolutely, which just pissed me off even more, made me say no even harder to the bippity boo-wop. But then all of a sudden, a few years ago, they're like, hey, speaking of the bippity boo-wops, even though we try to force you to get one, if you happen to be O negative and you haven't gotten a bippity boo-wop, do you mind donating some blood to us? And I'm like, fuck no. Hell no. Because your elites, your Aluma Shmati elites only want O negative blood. And so they want my blood because I'm O negative and I don't have the bippity boo-wop. Fuck no, I'm not giving you my blood. Absolutely not. If one of my O negative friends in my life needs my blood, I will gladly give it to her or him. I ain't giving it to you. No, no, nope, absolutely not. Boundary, no consent there. Yeah, but not just cough in your face. No, it's like a germ. Not like the way you can shed like spike proteins. You can't contract in the same way. So you have to like do the hokey pokey or have a blood transfusion from somebody who's been bippity boo off. They're saying it's not as easy as just standing beside somebody that's gotten it. Yeah, no, okay, we're going to stop now because I'm tired and I know we've got more. And these are questions that are not crucial to the time. They're historical questions. So we're going to stop here. We'll start next time with questions number 14 about the height of men during the Atlantean period and things about Norwegians. Oh, here we go. St. Patrick. I didn't see this in the last one, so we might go back and look at the next reading and then to see if we see anything about St. Patrick. Aryan invasion. How did, because I put St. Patrick's Day in the search. I didn't just put St. Patrick. Okay. Aryan invasions, ancient race. All right. So there's anything that we should have asked that is crucial to our survival or the survival of our group that we didn't ask, please consider to ask from deep within our hearts and give us some guidance. You're doing well. Help is on the way. Goodbye. Oh, well, you've been telling us help is on the way for so many years. I don't believe you anymore. Are you trying to be funny? End of session. All right, you guys. So I guess next one, we'll look at the next reading after this to see about the questions, because I'm intrigued by some of those questions that they asked at the end of that. So that will be our next one. All right, you guys, until next time, leave me your thoughts and your opinions down in the comment section below. The more, if we can get about 500 likes on this videos and comments, this really pushes the video out in the algorithms. Thank you to everybody who's been sharing these videos. I know so many of you guys have been sharing them, and I thank you so much for that. That is the way we network. That is the absolute way we network. And if there's any YouTuber out there, again, that wants to cover the seas, please do. I don't own this stuff. If you want to email me and ask me some questions so you have your head around who the seas are and all that kind of stuff, feel free to ask me that too. We're all here to help each other. We're all here to network. We're all just walking each other home. All right, you guys, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Please make sure to check out the Esoteric Academy. We have, again, a whole new playlist of us going deep into the Law of One and the Seas, and we would love to have you over there. That link is down in the description box below. You get 7 days of a free trial. And with that being said, I will bid you adieu, and we will talk soon. Bye, guys.